Coming up on a Paper Talk today, we're looking at Jadon Sancho and whether he could be heading back to Manchester United. Also, Bruno Fernandes, could he be leaving Old Trafford? Surely not. Let's get into it. Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm outside Old Trafford and the weather, it's okay. It's spitting though, so it's spitting. Get them in. Loads of stories to crack on with. Before we do though, make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. Now, I want to get to 750,000 subscribers by the end of today. I don't know if we're there already. By the time you watch this, we might be, but we were almost there last time I checked. So let's get to that 758,000 mark. Right, anyway, enough of all that. Let's talk about some Manchester United stories. The big story doing the rounds last night was about Jadon Sancho. I think it was John Cross in the Mirror was saying that Jadon Sancho could be open to the idea of coming back to Manchester United, but it depends on who the manager's going to be, and basically he knows that Erik ten Hag and him aren't getting on. He's probably not got a future under Erik ten Hag, so it seems like the kind of gist of that story is basically he'll come back if Erik ten Hag's not the manager and if the new manager wants him. Now, I don't think there's anything new here. I think we kind of expected that anyway, but I was reading the article and some of the things it said didn't really ring true for me. I mean, it said he's been a huge success in his time back at Borussia Dortmund. Now, obviously, they got to the Champions League, which is very successful. Champions League final, sorry, which is very successful. He had a very good game. I think it was in the semi-final first leg against PSG. But on the whole, I think he's done okay at Dortmund. I don't think it's been a huge success. I think I was checking the stats, and I think he's completed 4 games since he's been there in terms of finishing a full 90. Also, as well, he had 6 goal involvements. I think in 21 games, I want to say. 2 of those goal involvements, I think, came in his first game. So obviously, do the maths there. It's 4 goal involvements in his last 20 games, which isn't terrible, but it's not setting the world alight. Let's not forget, when United bought Jadon Sancho from Dortmund for 73 million quid or whatever it was, I think his final season there, he had 36 goal involvements in 39 games. Basically Lionel Messi numbers, or Cristiano Ronaldo numbers. Almost a goal involvement every game. He'd helped them win the German Cup as well and get them into the Champions League. I think he scored a couple of goals in the German Cup final too, if memory serves. So he'd had a hugely successful season then, which is why we bought him. This time round, yes, they've got to Champions League final, which you can't sniff at. He's phenomenal. But in terms of his performances, I think he's done okay. I don't think he's set the world alight there. Now, Dortmund obviously are impressed enough with him to still want him. I think they're looking at a loan move. I don't think they can afford to buy him permanently for what Manchester United want. But the idea of Jadon Sancho, he's gone to Dortmund and he's smashed it completely. And now, you know, there's going to sort of, the debate is, should United just get him back regardless of whether Erik ten Hag is the manager or not? I don't know. I don't quite agree with that one. I think it's better if Jadon Sancho moves on. I think he's done all right. Don't think he's done well enough for Manchester United, whether that was under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, under Ralf Rangnick or under Erik ten Hag, and I think it's best for all concerned if he does move on. Get involved in the chat and the comments and let me know what you think. One player I don't want to see moved on is Bruno Fernandes. Anyone who watches this channel, anyone who follows me on social media will know that I couldn't be a bigger Bruno Fernandes fan if I tried. I think he's easily our best signing post Alex Ferguson. However, there are some rumours, reports, stories, whatever you want to call them, that Bruno Fernandes not could be on his way, but you know, there's discussions afoot that clubs are looking at him and they may be open to a move. Now, this has come from several different places, but Fabrizio Romano, speaking, I think, in court offside, has spoken about it. And I think that Bruno Fernandes' agent, I think he's called Miguel Pino, has been meeting with some of Europe's top clubs with a view to maybe Bruno Fernandes moving on there. Now, the sort of overall feeling is he doesn't want to move. He will stay at Manchester United. I think he's contracted till 2026, and there's no indication that he's desperate for a move. I think he just wants some sort of reassurance or wants to know what's going on with the club's future, with the new manager, if there's going to be a new manager, or is it going to be Erik ten Hag with the new structure and all that stuff. There was another report, I think, coming out of Portugal that Bayern Munich were interested in him. I think Sky Sports picked up on that on their Paper Talk as well. So there's a few little stories doing the rounds that I don't like. This whole insinuation that Bruno Fernandes might be moving on somewhere. His agent talking to clubs. Don't want to see that happen. We need to keep Bruno Fernandes at Manchester United. I know, you know, you might look at it and you go, well, Jay, he's almost 30. I think he is now. He's, you know, how many years has he got left? I think Bruno Fernandes can play easily into his mid-30s. Look at his injury record. Look at how fit he is. I wouldn't be surprised if Bruno Fernandes is still running around this Old Trafford pitch at the age of 35, 36. I mean, we've seen some very, not all players do that, but we've seen some very good midfielders do that. Paul Scholes, for example, was here till his mid-30s doing bits as well and winning titles. So I'd be very reluctant to let Bruno Fernandes move on, thinking, well, he's near the end now anyway, so it's not that, you know, it might make sense if we get a bit of dough for him. Listen, We have had a disastrous transfer policy post Sir Alex Ferguson. The one shining light, almost the only shining light, not quite, but one of the very few, has been Bruno Fernandes. It would be ludicrous to let him go. And I don't care how much money we're offered, I would keep Bruno Fernandes. You need to build here around players like Bruno, like Kobbie Mainoo, like Rasmus Højlund, like Lisandro Martinez. Those are your core players. I think you start getting rid of them and trying to replace them, you're taking massive steps backwards, and that's not what we want to see. In terms of next season in the Europa League, there's a story doing the round in the Times that UEFA are going to allow Manchester United to compete in the Europa League. There was some reports that maybe because Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos own Nice and own Manchester United, and Nice finished 5th, I think, in the French League, Ligue 1, and Manchester United obviously finished way down the pecking order in the English Premier League. We only made the Europa because we beat City in the FA Cup final, that we might have to go down to the Europa Conference. However, it seems, according to the Times, that won't be the case, that Ineos can do this sort of putting Nice in this blind ownership trust thing. I don't quite understand it, but basically saying, look, Nice and Manchester United are going to be completely separate. We're not going to be influencing both clubs, so they can both be in the same competition. I think City have got the same issue with Girona. Girona, who are owned by the City Group, are also in the Champions League, and there was talks that maybe, or reports that maybe, Girona would have to drop down into the Europa, but apparently City are going to do something similar. It all gets a bit messy and murky, doesn't it, when you own multiple clubs? I know this sort of multi-club business model is all the rage nowadays, but I don't really think Manchester United need it. I think if push came to shove, Sir Jim Ratcliffe could sell Nice. I think he's always sort of spoken about the fact he wanted Manchester United. That's his priority. If it is your priority and it does cause dramas, then get rid of Nice. But at the minute, it looks like it won't do. However, I think this is going to be a review. Next season, they might have to look at it again. So if that is the case, he may have to make a decision. The main thing is you don't want to see Manchester United get into the Europa League in the hardest way possible, beating Manchester City in an FA Cup final, and then find out, actually, no, you're not going to be playing in the Europa League. You're going to be playing in the Europa Conference, which, let's have it right, I don't mind the Europa League. It's a good competition. The Europa Conference, it's a bit of a step too far for me. We were looking at some of the teams in it. I didn't recognise half of them, to be honest with you. I think some of them were made up. Some of them were just numbers. Just a load of numbers. I don't know what that means. So, yeah, not a big fan of the Europa Conference. There's a piece by Oliver Kay in The Athletic talking about the Super League and the Champions League, and how Florentino Perez hasn't given up on sort of reshaping the Champions League, and that might be the Super League. How he's not fully given up on that idea. Obviously, he was one of the architects of the Super League. Real Madrid have just won their 15th Champions League, which is just insane. Imagine winning your 15th Champions League, and then you announce that you're signing Kylian Mbappe. That is just, I can't even get my head around it. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous, isn't it? Just they live in a different world, don't they, Real Madrid? Anyway, there's still talk that maybe he'll be looking at the Champions League game reformatted, or even the Super League coming back in, I should say. They have changed the Champions League, obviously, into this sort of Swiss model, but appeasement only makes the aggressor grow stronger, and I think that's what could happen here with UEFA sort of trying to keep Perez happy. He's just going to keep going for this European Super League idea. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. Obviously, Manchester United fans weren't so happy about it. We protested. It wasn't just about that. It was obviously about the Glazed ownership as well. But the European Super League didn't help. We got a game called off against Liverpool. Chelsea fans protested. One or two other clubs as well. So their fans reacting a lot of fans reacting in a bad way. And the Super League was sort of consigned to the dustbin for now. As always, we will keep you posted if that changes. Just one final one as well, sorry. Benjamin Sesko, the RB Leipzig attacker, or striker I should say, has been linked with Manchester United. There's a story doing the rounds that he could be going to Arsenal. Arsenal are in for him. I think the Metro and a couple of others have picked up on this. Arsenal looking at him. He's been linked with United. He's had a decent season. I think he's about 18 goals in 42 games for Leipzig. So he's done well. I think he's only 20 though. He's only a young lad. He has smashed it as a youngster as well. I don't think United are going to get him. He seems to be Arsenal's main target. Arsenal moving forward with that. It feels like one of those headlines where they throw Manchester United in there just to gain a few more clicks. But one to keep an eye on, but I'd be very surprised if Sesko ended up at Old Trafford playing for United next season. Going to leave it there. I'm going to be back later on today with the Paddock podcast. Myself, Joe Smith, Adam McCall's going to be joining us. So make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. Let's get to that 750,000 subscribers. Thanks for watching.